Oh, got it. It's not on my screen. There we go.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Joys of technology. Remember, you just got to get in a room and have a meeting. It's always more to it.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
You don't do this.
Yes. So I don't have my phone.
Is it the same? Already. Hi. Hi. Right, you've identified the right bag.
Okay.
Bagels and
All right.
cheese.
I think we're up and running now. Sorry about that.
Just to let everyone know, Officer Daniel is present.
Right. Great. Thank you for being here.
Sorry, Miss Fox.
Okay. All right. I think we're up and running here. All right. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Again, we're in Q4
I think
here at District 3, MLK Park. Been doing these meetings for a while, but start with us with some introductions. Then we've got some major discussion items for the day. Some work that's been building to the point where they want to get some important input. Got a lot of projects that are just ongoing. We like to give general updates. And of course, we like to leave time every meeting. As much as we can keep the conversation on point with these major items, we can usually get through these things and leave time for new issues of the day, concerns, etc. After we get through these meetings, then we always talk about next steps. But by way of introduction, key players in the Olmsted Community Alliance are myself and my partner, Director of Inclusion and Engagement, Z, here, who obviously as technical issues come up, I step away, she steps in, fixes them, and then I get back. That's the deal we've got. But we've got a leadership team. Stephanie's going to be joining us on Zoom, but also with operations with Bob Stokes out getting a hip replacement. We've got Jimmy Coyle from District 2 stepping up as interim director of operations, and their chief development communications officer, Katie. Here in District 3, we've got Troy Drake for district supervisor. Hopefully some of you have gotten to know Troy out there in the park. We also, through promotion, lost his right-hand man, Jonathan, to become the district supervisor down in South Buffalo, and promoted up from within Ricky Kearney as the District 3 foreman. So Ricky's now on the job as Troy's second in command. People who come through the system come through MLK District. You see forestry manager Mike, our facilities manager Charlie, and our system-wide specialty gardens manager, who is in charge of the newly dedicated John E. Brent Garden as of this morning. I'll circle back on Madeline in District 3. But again, really the purpose of these meetings is just about dialogue. It's about making sure the community is aware of the work that's happening, the city projects, Conservancy projects that are coming down the pipe, from construction to planning. But also, hearing from you all about the issues you're seeing, the things you want to see in the parks, but as well tying that back into master planning and making sure we're thinking 5 years ahead in terms of what are our priorities, how do we plan the steps to make sure we're continuing to move these parks forward. But again, increasing awareness, just touch points throughout the community, and hopefully encouraging people to want to get more involved through volunteerism and stewardship. But really, it's all about just communication, collaborating, and just keeping that connection going and strong. Now, just kick it right off, get down to what we all want to talk about, our sort of major projects of the day. Hopefully everyone was able to grab an agenda to see what we got coming, and then a variety of things we move quickly through, because a lot of the story is told on that second handout, the sort of project updates handout. So again, if there's information on that second handout you want to talk about more, we can bring it up as we go along, but otherwise we've got some really in-depth conversations to start with. First of which is focused on the MLK Casino. It's been a long time coming, but wrapping up construction there, and we are starting have been slowly rolling out and getting input on the process of developing an RFP for a concessionaire to come into the building. For this, I'm going to turn it over to our business development manager, Natalie, who is going to talk us through sort of where things stand, where things are headed. Natalie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I finally get to talk at this. Thank you all for coming. Can Zoom see my face?
Yes.
Nice. Hello, everyone on Zoom. So the MLK Casino, that has been under construction for quite a few years, and we're in our final phase of writing the RFP. Right now, the contractor is still in the building because they're waiting on table and chairs. But while they're waiting for table and chairs, it is up to me first to draft the RFP. It goes through several channels, but I'm the first person to kind of get the ball rolling on it. And as I draft it, we've used some community input that Z did with some surveying in MLK Park. And so with today's meeting, with everything we've been doing this past year, we hope to get the RFP out by the end of 2022. So maybe even next month. Those who don't know, I'm sure everyone here knows what an RFP is, but just to be clear, it's facility is open and we must put out a RFP, so request for proposals, so people, community members and businesses can bid on the facility and rent it out, for however many years that they decide to bid on. So here's an update on the floor plan. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it yet in the past few years, but this is the upper floor. So this one overlooks the splash pad. They have a new elevator installed in the building with the ADA accessible bathroom over there, you can see. And then there's 2 offices or storage space, whatever concessionaire would want to use. The kitchen, full service kitchen is over here. It comes with brand new appliances, again, that the city contracted out for. So there's an extensive list of appliances, which is a really just great marketing for this RFP. The lower floor is, again, the bathrooms that will be open to the public. And the potential area for a to-go snack bar. So that's, if you enter through, so this is where the splash pad is, you can enter on either side and then go to the open area, and that is, it could be used as a to-go snack bar, which I'm not sure if it was ever used in the past. I know the community used the lower space quite a bit a few years ago. And then as you can see, there's a multitude of storage space, and then a prep kitchen and a dry storage kitchen. So that's pretty much the layout. And again, over this past season, we had, I think it was mostly C, but we had people in the field doing some surveys. We got quite a few responses on what the community wants to see in the space. The highest being fast food, and again, that's a little ambiguous. So that's probably someone who could grab it and go, or it could be like McDonald's. But a close second and third is deli cafe or a restaurant could be in the space. So with this information, I use that to draft a very ambiguous RFP that can be reached among the community. So it could be a to-go restaurant business or a catering business that maybe wants to apply for the building and operate there and do any sort of activities in that building. So as we continue, I'm going to show you just samples of what I've written in this RFP, and anything highlighted in light blue is definitely up for discussion. I would love anyone's input today. Everyone on Zoom, if you want to type, walk out for a second, but if you want to type any questions or if you want to just unmute yourself, you're welcome to ask at the end of this, but I'll go through it really quickly and then we could go back and talk about it. So the overview, and again, this is the opening paragraph of the RFP. Buffalo Olmsted Parks Conservancy is looking for a vendor to operate the space as a cafe, restaurant, catering facility, and or event venue. And again, very ambiguous. We kind of want someone to see the space and know the community and know exactly what to put in there. So it can be, a far-reaching RFP. Next is the facility background. If anyone who knows, built in 1927, kind of shortly after the original building burnt down next to the greenhouse. Martha told me all that. So the facility background cannot be changed, but that's what's in the RFP. Then I just go into detail about parking. I'm sure all of you know, but parking lots are not allowed to be constructed on a public park. So I just go into the parking details of MLK and exactly what the constraints may be for a business. Then I went in and talked about the description of the building, which is what I just walked through the upper and lower floors. Equipment provided, again, it's an awesome new kitchen with dozens of new appliances upstairs and downstairs. And then lastly, for site location information is the operator responsibilities. Now I have quite a few of these listed in the RFP, but some of the big ones is that the operator will be responsible for all costs of operations and cleaning and general upkeep of the entire building and the public restroom. So if if the operator is in the building by next summer and there's, the bathrooms prestigious clean, that's a great operator. We want to see that. We want to get someone in here that is really into, making this building come alive and just giving us the best thing we can get in the building. And then also trash disposal, recycling. And on top of that is pest control written in the draft. But these are all operator responsibilities. They're pretty much going to be in charge of everything, just like if you're familiar with the Marcy over at Delaware Park Terrace. Overview market opportunities. This is, again, we're advertising the space in the RFP. So MLK Park has an amazing splash pad, as you all know. That attracts many people during the height of the season. Buffalo, Museum of Science, they attract 200,000 people per year, which is just probably a lot less than we do, but they ticket people so they know exactly how many people come into the Science Museum, which just goes to show how much the park is probably utilized. And then as you all know, there's over 26 large scale events such as Pappy Martin, Funk Fest, and a lot of others that I am forgetting at the moment, but I did that all summer. So I know it was a lot. Statement of objectives. So this is something I added. We've not done this in an RFP before, but we want to make it very clear that we want someone in this building that understands that this is a very new business in a historic building, and we want to make sure that it is successful, and it's only going to be successful if the community is here giving input. So what I included is BOPC is looking for an operator that will use reasonable pricing model that attracts all members of the surrounding community and business, respects the rules and regulations of the park. Again, I know we always talk about driving on the grass at these meetings, and hopefully the operator will recognize that, know of all the issues that go on with driving on the grass, and champion, parking enforcement or what that may look like in the future. Dedicated time to understanding the community needs and wants, and striving to create a community gathering space for all. So that's, again, what we are looking for in a vendor. Criteria for evaluation. This is what the city, BOPC, and the community, what we're looking for in a concessionaire. So there's 4 categories, and we can change the percent weighted in this evaluation. And it's pretty much like a SAT or scoring. We're going to score people on their submissions to this RFP. The first being the profile, resume, and history of the business. So any business that applies, we'll go through their resume, how long they've been in operations, what their how many businesses they owned, if they come from the community, kind of just everything that their profile is. I know we have a concessionaire in Delaware Park that was a restaurant manager for 20 years, and now he operates one of our facilities in Delaware Park, and it's been awesome. So we're definitely looking, even if it's a new business, as long as their profile matches it, I think that is 30% is a decent score, but we're definitely open to opinion. B would be the lease and rental terms. That will be weighted at 30%. Usually we're looking beyond 2 years. That is open for discussion. And then section C is the business plan. So this is operating costs and your revenue drivers. So the business plan is exactly what I do every day for the Conservancy. See the possible revenues from a potential business like this. And again, there's 2 floors. There's 2 potential operations, a to-go snack bar and an upstairs service area. So this is pretty valuable information for us in the selection process. And then D, capital improvements and additional investments. This is that just was redone, the MLK Casino. I don't think they're going to need to update inside much, but there is potential to have an outdoor space one day in the future, Beers, Brian, maybe they want to, make a little patio outside of the casino or something like that. We would weight that at 10% if they do want to upgrade the facility at all. So that I know it's a lot of information. I could go back to any section you're concerned about, and then I'll go on to next steps after this. But this is pretty much the RFP that everyone will see, and I would just love any input or comments or questions. Yes.
So one of the issues that I know that we're going to have to deal with is the status of the business as it relates to MWBE.
Yes, so that's actually under, I believe, these sections go into greater detail in the 6-page RFP. But for,
Not that they'll get more points, but
they actually, I think technically do.
okay, I'm just, so the points they don't equal favoritism. It just equals more of a criteria that they will be able to fulfill. So
Yeah.
if we had a business, say for instance, who was only in business for maybe 5 years, but they're an MWBE versus a business who's been in business for 20 years and they're not an MWBE, they both have a very good chance of getting 30% or 30 points, so to speak, in the section, the A section.
Yeah.
For profile.
Yeah, I mean, I like for the number of years, I think it's a different weight. Like if it was like 5 versus 20, I think the MWB doesn't carry nearly as much if it's like 5 versus 10.
So the success of the business is, I believe, in my opinion, and for, of course, what I hear from the neighbors on East and North Parade, is that an MWBE would be more likely to succeed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it definitely.
Only because they would like to see a minority-owned business
Yeah,
thriving in their
I mean,
community.
Yeah, I mean, we do, it's that, and also we definitely are rating, on people's zip codes and where they're coming from to operate this business. So that also weights in here.
Well, I mean, zip codes, you have some owners of minority businesses who may not live in the city of Buffalo, but they're minority businesses.
Yeah.
And just like we had at the Northern Workforce Training Center,
Yes.
we really convinced and spoke very loudly with Butsy to ensure that it was a minority-owned business in there, and they are thriving right now because the community takes ownership of minority-owned businesses, and with this being in MLK Park, I would suspect that not that minority-owned business will get preference, but that would weigh a lot heavier, even if there was a business with 20 years experience, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. And I think that's a huge component in the criteria, but also I'm hoping that, the preliminary, back when we talk about statement of objectives, it's a longer paragraph, but we do want someone who's committed to this community and who knows it very well. So I'm hoping that most of our bids are people from the community.
How are we fishing?
Yes, that is on my last page.
Okay.
But Z and I have created a list that's ongoing. I'm sure we have to talk to your office a bit, but we have a large distribution list, a lot of
Like community partners, and this RFP that Natalie's is working on, as Stephanie has contributed in the chat, is also based off of Northland's RFP, and we can definitely loop in Northland Workforce Training Center to see how they pushed out their RFPs to gain some advice from them.
I think Butsy was the spearheaded that.
Yeah, so maybe if we ask them for their support on pushing it out to their contacts, would that make sense on your end?
And
Yeah,
I think if you remember off the top of your head,
sure.
the list, like some organizations on the list, I think it's.
Brian has also been to our community stakeholders meetings in Maston. That's another great place to promote and get the word out. The next meeting is November the 12th at 9 a.m. at the Delavan Grider Center. Every second Saturday, it'd be beneficial for Olmsted to present, maybe just give some update, because we have a major update in the park happening right now that the community is unaware of. They're calling me because they don't know why all this dirt and debris are in these piles. And I'm happy to report to them that it's the new lighting and things that are being installed. But the community really needs to know what's happening. And if you guys want to have a standing piece at that meeting, Brian, anyone you want to send, we're happy to make sure that you have that opportunity. But that'll be a great place to also give the community information for that RFP.
Sounds great. Yep. So we can give an update on all the park projects in MLK Junior Park going on in the next few weeks, as well as the RFP that will be pushed out soon. And if there are any business owners that are interested in applying for the bid, or if they have people in your network, they can definitely spread the word and go from there. Does
That's
that sound
perfect.
good? Okay. Should I connect with Courtney at your office?
Yes, Courtney.
Sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And I definitely know the mayor is very highly involved in this project, and I believe he's stated that he wants a local business owner. Don't want to quote him, but.
We have had that conversation.
Yeah.
And that is accurate.
Yes. So again, a lot of people are in on this project, but right now is a great, this is where we all help write this RFP at the Conservancy, and then we'll hand it over to the city to review. And if they have any points as well. So any other questions on the RFP itself? And then I'll go into the next steps.
In the business plan, section C, typically there's a marketing plan.
Yes.
How much weight are you putting on that strategic marketing plan?
So in the business plan, we have it all listed under 30%. So if someone has, a good marketing plan versus like an amazing restaurant menu, event, like say they're maybe an event space and they're a business that's already well known, it's all going to kind of weigh together in the entirety.
I guess the question that I'm asking in more detail has a lot to do with the demographics and the market that they will be targeting over here. Who are they targeting? What is the segmentation of that market? How do they plan to ensure that their price point for this market is in fact strategic, so that they are successful? Because I don't want there to be a great business with great food but the folks in this area are priced out, and all you see are outsiders, so to speak, these quote unquote outsiders coming in and taking advantage of a park that this community has been utilizing when there was no casino, a park that this community has been utilizing when the wading pool was no good, a community who's been utilizing this park before Stephanie got the beautiful Kaboom parks installed. They've been utilizing this park, and we don't want them to be disenfranchised from utilizing the casino's restaurant tier as well. So I just want to make sure that in the business plan, we also consider their marketing plan and make sure that they have strategic components in there to show us that they understand the demographics of this market, the geographics of this market, the norms of this market. We just want to make sure they understand where they are and who their first ring of customers will be in this area.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think the top performing bids will include all that in the RFP, such as their pricing point and their research. The best applications are ones that include a lot of research.
So after you guys review the applications, when does the community have an opportunity to see the top selected restauranteurs?
Glad you said that. I'll go for the next steps for RFP. So I'll send, again, with all of these comments and suggestions, BOPC will send the City of Buffalo this RFP for approval. Then it will be distributed amongst a vast list that we put together and we get from the Northland Community Center. I'm sure that will be an incredible resource. There is a mandatory walkthrough for anyone that applies for this RFP that wants to be a business there. It makes a lot of sense. If you're there on site, you get the feel of it. I'm sure at this point, C is so technology advanced, we could probably do a virtual one too, if just to be accessible to everyone. And then 4 will receive all of the submissions, work through them, and then the top 3 will be presented to the public. And we can definitely work with your office to market that and make sure everyone's involved. After that will be the final decision. After the final decision, we negotiate contracts and assign a final.
How much consideration will the public opinion have in who's selected and who's going to make the final decision? Is it going to be the mayor? Is it going to be Olmsted? Is it going to be the community? Who makes the final decision?
That's definitely going to be negotiated between the city, I'm sure, your office.
Well, the city, when folks say the city, and I don't mean to keep taking over, but when folks say the city, they're not talking about the legislature. They're not talking about us. When folks say the city, they're talking about the mayor's office because he's the executive, naturally. However, whoever makes the final decision, I want to make sure that the community is aware of who's making that decision. Because if it's a great decision, whoever made the great decision deserves to get the credit for it. But if it's a terrible decision, I don't want to get blamed for I'm serious.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to get blamed for a restaurateur being there, that we as a community, I'm here as a resident. I'm also just happen to be the council member, but I'm speaking as a resident. I want to make sure that they're successful there. It's within so many, feet of my front door, so to speak. The church is right down the street. So who says that my church won't be a major contributor to the success of this restaurant, being that, they are going to have this nice open space that we might be able to utilize for banquets and other things for my congregation. But the final decision, it needs to be clear who's making that decision, because I don't want to get the blame for it if it's no good. But if it is good, then whoever made the decision deserves to get the credit as well. I'm gonna get the, that's right, Brett Brown. I'm gonna get the blame anyway.
So thank you, Councilmember Ringo. So following Stephanie has this question on advice from everyone here. What are some suggestions on decision making? Perhaps should we build a task force with city, BOPC, local resident, as well as stakeholder representation to solicit discussions and recommendations? So there's a committee that will decide, that will go through the RFP process together. We'll sit down and review the submissions. Stephanie, is that what you're referring to? Feel free to chime in.
Well, so just to
Yes,
respond to
that's
the
what I recommend.
question, you have Fillmore District right on the other side of Best Street. So it would also be wise to ensure that whatever block clubs that are in Mitch's district, they're included. I want to make sure that we have the Just Breathe Block Club included. I want to make sure that right down the street on Genesee is Juneteenth headquarters. I want to make sure they're included, because remember, Juneteenth is in fact the largest event that we have in the city of Buffalo.
I think isn't
Period.
it the biggest Juneteenth?
Second largest in the country.
Wow.
It's the best,
That's impressive.
but it's the second largest in the country. And we want to make sure that these tens of thousands of people who are coming through here, the restaurant reflects the community. So whoever gets this casino, gig, they are going to be successful. We just want to make sure that it's reflective of the community's desires, wishes, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, the business also is not going to do well if we don't have, your office's support and the community support. So we definitely want to collaborate and create this committee. Great idea, Stephanie. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie.
She's in the Zoom.
She's doing Zoom. Great. So I'll come back and maybe we can create a schedule with meetings. I'm trying to assume when that would be, probably late November.
So
Now, all of the folks in my stakeholders meeting on Saturdays, when I tell you all, the vast majority of them frequent all of those events in the park, particularly the Jazz Fests, the Gospel Fests, the Pine Beer Reunion, all of those events that we have over here, all of those folks in that meeting on Saturdays, they are use these parks and these spaces for those events too. So presenting to them is in effect speaking to the community who utilizes this park the most. So my suggestion would be to make sure that there is a spot for you on Saturdays at those stakeholder meetings on Saturday to make sure that the community is aware. That way,
Can we go for the next upcoming one?
you can be there on the 12th. Absolutely,
Okay, sounds good.
absolutely.
November 12th, you said?
November 12th, 9 a.m. 877 East Delavan.
Why don't we get back with the schedule and timeline, using that as a key point, and maybe even the following month as another key point in the process. So we can circulate that timeline.
That would just kind of help you target the folks who use the park, but you want to make sure that Gina Davis, the president of the Block Club over here, who also just happens to be a board member, is included, because she's the one who rallies the residents who live on the periphery of this park on East and North Parade. So in Maston side, the park is in Maston, but again, like I said, on the other side of Genesee and Best, that's off Fillmore.
Gina's I'm here.
Yeah, Gina just left my office. Gina is doing a whole lot of running today as well, so I'm sure she's got another meeting somewhere.
All right, great. Seems like this is off and running, and obviously this will be an ongoing process. It's a pretty elaborate timeline, a lot of steps along the way. So exciting to get this rolling. As a part of this, and again, we've used quite a bit of the meeting, so I'm going to move this along quickly. But I do want to sort of encourage people to speak up when they have comments and points. One of the key features of this that we need to work out, it's going to be part of sort of a capital plan, but also the concessionaire is trash disposal. They are obviously responsible for it, but we need to set them up for success. We talked about last meeting as something we want to put on the concessionaire, but we're going to have to approve the location and the conversation either way at any point. So want to keep the dialogue going on this. So related to location 4, removal of trash, obviously not a fun subject to talk about, but a very necessary one. And you know it when it's done poorly. Got the casino in the center of the building. To the south side, with the parking, with the playground, with the picnic shelters, sort of the very tightness of that corridor and all the various edges, really no place on the south side of the building to consider trash disposal. So that kind of leaves us with where are we and how are we handling this somewhere, some way on the north side. So again, we're not going to make decisions today, but I would like to get a little bit of feedback. We're going to circle this back through our design review committee. But really kind of honed in on 3 different locations. They all have drawbacks because there really is no good place to put a dumpster. There really isn't. But want to walk you through each one of these and sort of get any sort of feedback beyond the obvious things that we're noting as we go along. So starting close to the building, north of the building in sort of a wooded area, north of the old ice rink and lily pool. So as we zoom in on there, there is an opportunity, to sort of bring the truck down in and have a screened dumpster pad, again, screened vegetatively, screened with a fence and gate, controlled 100 feet away from the building. This mirrors and models what we do at the Marcy Casino. It's about 100 feet away from the building. It's, obviously on a route to the building, but make an attempt to sort of screen it as best we can.
Brian, those paths that are asphalt, those aren't rated for that weight of a vehicle.
So we did rebuild the path at the top of the steps around the basin as a part of this project, because it is going to be a delivery route either way.
Okay.
So that path was widened to 12 feet and built for heavier equipment. we're gonna need to verify, that we definitely need to verify that a dump truck falls in line with a delivery truck.
Mhm.
But that's a great point to raise. It's something we'll certainly circle back on. It's again, obviously closest to the building. That means garbage trucks are coming into the park onto pathways. You know, but from a concessionaire standpoint, they're gonna like that it's relatively close to their building. So again, constraints, issues, we don't want dump trucks coming into the park, you know, and, but, you know, it's one of the possibilities that I guess we need to talk about more. So with that in play, then up close to the Science Museum, it's kind of a very accessible spot. Just again, keep the dump truck or keep the garbage truck, you know, on the pathways, in and out, you know, less invasive. But again, this area, you know, while easily accessible, it's within the critical root zone of a major tree. It's going to create sightline issues along the park road. It's difficult to screen. So again, a potential spot, but a lot of drawbacks, potentially some safety drawbacks. Yes, sorry. Oops. So again, we're up at location 2. So you can see it's near the bus drop off. There's a little landscape island.
Yep.
Yep. So school and science museum, bus parking, all along here, the parking lot. It's just like a little island area.
Brian, you know, there's a lot of dumping that happens. Anyone know?
No, there's not a lot of.
No.
There's actually, the only time the park is trashed is after an event where folks who don't live in the area come in and treat it as though if someone else will do it. But for the most part, the normal users of the park don't trash the park. The only issue we have with the park right now, based on the information I received from Gina and others, Brad Watts in the over on Parade, is that they drive through the park. And that's one of the things that aggravates all of us, you know, is the driving through the park. But, you know, they come have parties and they leave, they take other things with them. Of course, the maintenance, they do their regular maintenance, you know, things blow over in there. But for the most part, there's no dumping. You would think that with there not being much light in the park, that folks who dump illegally in the city would dump in the park. There's no lights. But no, they dump on dark streets, you know, and it's crazy to me. But anyway, I'm not complaining about that.
So how far is this from the front of the museum? Because I live off of Northampton, which is the front of the museum. And we already have bad rat problems.
Yeah,
So to put a dumpster close to where the homes are already.
Yep.
It's gonna be a big problem.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's about trash disposal, like this being a cesspool and pest attractor is not an option. That's on the concessionaire, that's on the Conservancy to manage the concessionaire. Make sure this is
Are
about
these
getting rid of
permanent?
their trash.
These are permanent dumpsters you're putting in?
This is going to be, yeah, like basically where the operations of this casino building are dealing with their daily waste and, you know, getting it in onto trucks and out. But it needs to, you know, like any business, like any home, you know, you get it out of the facility and you get it out of the park.
right. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I don't mean that, Drew.
Nope.
There's an access point over here, right next to the museum, where there's dumpsters over here.
Mhm.
Can they share that space? Yes or no?
And that would be something we could
Don't-
have to
don't-
negotiate that.
The
with.
city owns the museum, don't we?
Yep.
Just make sure.
Yeah. So it would be a coordination with the operator.
You said we could do it.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good thing we should circle back.
But out of respect, let's make sure that we speak to Marisa Wigglesworth, and, you know, we can just consider that. And I know the folks at the casino won't like that idea, but if number 2 and number 3 is an option, that should also be an option.
For sure. And again, these aren't necessarily, we've been racking our brains trying to come up with a good spot. we have basically narrowed it down to these as the three least bad.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah,
again,
but to keep it
this
away
is-
from the residents, and I have a complete appreciation for rodents not being any more close than they need to be to residential houses. In certain communities where there has been a lot of, let me say it this way, new farms and backyards and other things we've experienced. I mean, I've never seen a possum before, but I've seen an opossum walking in my back. I thought it was a huge, I don't mean to take any more time, but Brian, this thing was this big. I thought it was a rat, but Brown, I thought it was a rat. It was this big, just wobbling across. I'm like, that a pregnant rat. It was an opossum. But I understand that. I appreciate the fact that you don't want anything to attract them unnecessarily. So my suggestion is, and if we want to throw that up there one of these days, just talk to Marisa
Yep.
and let her know the council member asked, would it be feasible for us to just put a dumpster over there for the restaurant? And if we need to increase the pickup for the garbage, then we can, that's a discussion her and I can have.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, certainly, wherever this ends up, Conservancy is going to be making sure that there aren't these issues and that we're holding the concessionaire responsible for addressing them, making sure whatever it takes. Those sorts of scenarios are not options that we're gonna accept. But, yes.
A couple of other things, these dumpsters usually attract yellow jackets as the season goes on. Quite often there's quite a swarm around them. So and I also have to say, so looking at like the Marcy Casino in Delaware Park, the route from the restaurant to the dumpsters relatively funky, underfoot.
Mhm.
So to me, that would be another consideration I would have is the proximity of people walking or using the land around these sites when there are
Sure.
events.
Yep.
So that would be another reason to go behind the museum and just centralize all this. And then they could use like a golf cart maybe to move the garbage, which might lessen the bump on the pathway. That's kind of what I would
We have those huge blue, that could be any color, but they like huge wheelbarrows. And maybe the golf cart can pull those things up and down the hill. They just put the trash in those big, huge wheelbarrow type tubs and just.
Yeah.
When you have restaurants throwing garbage out, you can see some of these point stores, they just throw garbage. They got it in a bag and they just throw it. Are there restrictions,
Yes.
regulations of how they dispose of their garbage?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, those will be all in
Who
their
monitors
contract.
that?
City
Hmm?
The city
and the
monitors
health
that?
department, yes.
And-
Well, the health department goes there because it's a restaurant. They get frequent visits.
Wasn't the health department?
Yeah, we don't have a health department.
Great.
The city doesn't have a health department at all.
So the health
All we
department
have is-
don't inspectors on a
The
regular
health
basis.
department inspects those things that could cause us to become ill. The city inspects whether or not they're within code. Right? So that's what we'll do. If they're not operating within code, then the city, yeah, they're gonna answer to somebody one way or the other. So we're covered there.
There'll be a lot of regulations. So again, I don't want to belabor this point, but so the drawbacks of two would be, I'd say, again, this is again even further. But that's neither here nor there. And then again, three as well, similar issue in terms of proximity to neighborhoods. So I think that would be noted. And I think, I guess a different set of concerns here being, again, right along a major pathway and highly visible from the neighborhood. It's already been noted, this is not the ideal spot from a neighbor view perspective. But again, access, keeping it out of the park is the pro, while the con is, again, its location and proximity to two other things. So, I would basically, unless there's other thoughts, I think seems like the best option that we want to explore is, again, connecting with the Science Museum. And then again, we'll sort of loop this back around. But again, sort of recognizing that, this being a detractor to the park, being a detractor to your homes is sort of not on the table as a result of this. You know, that's kind of where you need to draw the line with, you know, making a great building, having a great vendor in there is if it is having more of a negative effect on the community than positive. That's not what we're attempting to do here in these parks. So, but again, we're exploring things, and I guess if other people have any other thoughts, otherwise we'll get off this dirty subject and onto others. Great. Okay, so I know we've had a lot of conversations about this. This is again just revisiting as a brief update that this is, if not, you know, days, 1 week maximum away from getting rolling in terms of continuing the perimeter security work. And again, the goal of this, you know, we're talking about driving on the grass. We're talking about the safety of children on pathways. The goal of this boulder and bollard project is to make it physically impossible for vehicles to get onto pathways and up to these buildings and be driving and making people unsafe. So if this is successful, the problems go away. So that is the hope. Again, we're gonna have to monitor it, but it is planned and will be in place by next year. Again, just to update people, the orange is where there is existing traffic control at the moment. It's obvious that it's not sufficient. You just basically go to the end of the line of boulders and go in and around, and you're in the middle of the park. But basically, the entire perimeter of both the east and west and sort of the northern Cowalls Island will be completely blockaded with wood bollards in red, stone boulders in blue, and at every pathway, secured bollards, which are steel poles that will be locked. It will be removable so that operationally for events, we can pop them out, pop them back in. But you know, controlled access points and controlled accessors to people with the you know, with the authority to sort of.
Brian, what's blue again?
Blue is the rocks. Blue is the boulders.
All right. Green is what again?
Oh, so green, in addition to that, again, not as traffic control, but as sort of enhancement of traffic control, are tree plantings. So we're planning to fill the gaps in the tree line on both North Parade, East Parade, and the west side of Fillmore Avenue.
All of that is East Parade. 103 and 104. 103 is all East Parade.
Yep.
North Parade is 102.
Yeah, and well, that also, that little stretch of North Parade is where the trees
And no trees over, because there are trees all in there, but.
Yeah.
These are our boulders.
Those will all be boulders.
These are boulders too, though, the yellow here.
Yep, but those are already there. So that's why we want to know the new work that is going to happen. All right. So, but again, the goal is, and what, you know, we've been working with the city on making sure is there's nowhere we forgot to put one at the end of the day where the traffic will be able to get.
What's the timeline for all the blocks and everything else?
Yep, so the contractor basically just needs to provide his compliance plan. And as soon as that is signed off on, that's the literal last thing. So that is just basically a form that's reviewed by the compliance office of City of Buffalo, and then they'll be out there doing this work.
So this could be tomorrow.
Could be tomorrow. Yep.
All right.
And they're going to work through December 31st on this effort. So they'll be in the park. It's actually great because it's the same contractor currently in the park doing the lighting. So they're gonna have 2 crews. The mobilization will be, you know, work really well.
Mhm.
You know, the big thing is, you know, how much equipment do you want to get out in the park? And they're gonna have basically probably all the equipment they own out in this park doing multiple projects. So it should go very quickly and it'll be in place for the 2020 season. So
When will the trees be planted?
the trees might be the first thing they do because there's a window of time they get the trees in, but it'll be up to the contractor in terms of how they roll it out, whether it's a fall or spring. But I would think if they've been prepping for this project, they might already have the trees ordered. So exciting stuff. And again, I think, you know, again, we're gonna cover signage as the next thing, but If this is successful, you know, we're not going to have to worry about enforcement nearly as much because physical deterrence, not just, you know, mental or the fear of getting caught being the deterrent. So again, here's a visual of that bollard. And then, you know, I've got the detail in these. There's these tree planting sites. So again, I can cover that. But again, as part of this, we want to just make sure we were inventorying and planning for appropriate signage. Again, we'll be through this process, following up with parking enforcement and Buffalo PD on sort of what our plan is to sort of make sure on top of physical barriers, enforcement continues. But we did just want to do an inventory because we talked about inadequate signage. And it might just be that the signage just don't say the right things. But, you know, again, just working through what we've got out there, quite a few signs that say no parking on the grass. Again, there's conversations.
Maybe
about
the sign
parking.
should say parking on the grass will get you towed.
That is a good one. This actually, in my mind, might be the most effective. But again, we can follow up on the enforcers. But there is one sign out there that says no unauthorized vehicles. That covers pretty much everything in my mind. You're not authorized to be there. You're violating it no matter what you're doing. Driving, you know, parking, idling, whatever you want to call it. This seems like a catch-all. There is one sign out there. Is this enforceable? I guess we'll need to follow up on.
In some cases, that's good enough.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Officer Daniel. In some cases, that sign wouldn't be good enough because they may feel that they're authorized to be there if they, you know, pay for a permit to use the park.
That's a good point.
That's a fact. She is absolutely right.
Yeah. So that's things I don't think about. But yeah, I guess this will be what we have to make sure of is you know, if we want enforcement, we got to make sure we have the right signs in the right spots.
Also, we have to be mindful too that Officer Daniel and the other officers who do patrol over here in the park don't necessarily write tickets. They can, but the tickets ought to come, and Officer Daniel, please correct me, the tickets ought to come from parking enforcement.
We have the ability to write tickets, but I spoke with my captain about this earlier today. I explained to him that 9 times out of 10, when we show up to the park and we say to the park goers that they need to remove themselves or their vehicles from the picnic area, they don't give us any problems. They say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know," or, you know, "I thought it was okay as long as we were parked on the gravel part or the sidewalk." So sometimes we don't write tickets. A lot of times we do not write tickets, and I explained that to you guys before. But going forward, maybe we can get parking enforcement where they won't ask questions and they'll just write the tickets. Because when we write the tickets, we become, excuse my language, assholes. And then they really have a reason not to like us as police officers. So that's the issue that we're faced with, because if they feel like, yo, I'm respecting the officer and the officer asked me to remove my vehicle from this picnic area and I'm doing so, why am I also still receiving a ticket?
No, I completely agree. And that's why she's the professional expert on that. That's why I asked her permission. Asked her if I was correct because she would know. Thank you, Officer Daniel.
And I want to use this for an example. Okay, so say for instance, someone's elderly mother, like let's just say Councilman Wingo, your mother is a goer. She goes to the park and she parks her vehicle there. Would you really want me to ticket your mom?
She has a valid point. That's a valid point. No, I don't. No, I would not. To answer the question, no.
And especially if she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey, I'll remove it," and she doesn't hesitate. She gets up and she removes it. I mean, she moves the car. For me to just say, "Oh no, forget about that," everyone wants me to give everybody a ticket that parks in the picnic area. Is that really fair? Because they're not disrespecting me. They're not disrespectful at all. They'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll move it." And then they move it immediately.
One of the principles that I know that community police officers work on is compliance before enforcement. And that's one of the.
So let's just say we go with parking enforcement. What's the method to engage them? I mean, would it be somebody calls them, or would it be that they came kind of on a regular scheduled loop or route?
That would be awesome if they came just to check on the park. But then you're off requiring them to work overtime.
I think there's been some discussion of coordination at major events and making sure that the presence is understood to be engaged. If they know the event schedule, they know the likely times when there's going to be major issues where we'll need their support. So I think, again, coordination. Got a little update on some coordination we've been proactive on that hopefully is going to help address that. And again, I think we're going to be entering a new phase where with the perimeter security barriers, this is less of an issue. It might move the issue, but so again, signage may become an important component and making sure it's clear and it's in the right spots so people don't have the excuse of not knowing because they're clearly informed by signage at the appropriate locations. So again, we'll work through it. But again, part of the process, just sort of demonstrate that we're analyzing both. We've got our smoking signs, we got our park rule signs. Probably need a couple more of these as we've identified. And then there's also splash pad rule signs. So there's a lot of rules, a lot of signs, and we're going to just make sure they're all in the right spots.
Yeah.
As we go. Yes, ma'am.
So is there any signage for people with pets in the park?
So that'll be on the park rules sign. So I had hoped to get one that I could print out big enough that I could go through the park rules, but in terms of park use, it covers a lot of those ordinances and references on that.
So animals are still allowed in the park on leash.
Exactly.
You guys provide bags and stuff?
I mean, so the policy is you're responsible for bringing your own in. I mean, there have been times and cases where certain park facilities have put out bags. It's actually quite expensive to keep up with that.
What about just having the disposal unit? What about just the unit for disposal?
The unit?
Yeah.
To
Those metal boxes they have for putting the poop bags in?
Yeah, I mean we just take the step of, with the garbage totes, those being emptied on a regular basis. That's just where those bags would go, is into the garbage totes. So we eliminate the middleman there because that's an extra step in our maintenance process.
Okay.
But yeah, putting it right into a garbage tote is where we want it. But again, yeah, if there was a group that wanted to sort of dedicate themselves to, making it easy for a park user with a dog to get rid of their waste. So that's something we could talk about in here and sort of see if the energy was around it to keep that stuff, get that stuff online. All right, good point, but yeah, we clarify more. Yes.
One of the major problems we have, I'm representing GOT, is that our concessions, our vendors, about 1/3 or 1/4 of them are from out of town. And sometimes we have a problem with communication. We do have a meeting with our vendors who are here in Buffalo. Even that, we need extra assistance in trying to enforce the rules at the park. We don't mind police enforcement as long as it's done in a decent way.
Right.
That park is big.
Yeah. So on that, I'll loop back with a little summary, but we have engaged a lot of the major events around this park in a meeting we had in this room a couple days ago. We're just going to keep building on. I know Jennifer wasn't as engaged and aware of it with regard to the Juneteenth event, but the others
Yeah,
as well.
so I think maybe it's asking event organizers like how can we help you make it easier so that you can convey these park rules and guidelines to your vendors? Can we put together a package where do not park on the grass, do not, I don't know, this basic rules to follow, do you think that would help? And then we can, and we will send it to you and you can send it off to your vendors. And if they have any questions relating to rules regarding the park use, they can reach out to us and we can answer their questions.
I know something that, I forget what festival, maybe it was Pokemon. Someone asked, some event organizer, I did events this summer, while Patty was gone. And an event organizer did ask me to write a letter signed by an Olmsted staff with the rules and regulations. So,
Wonderful, yeah, so something.
so like the formal letter, here you go, here's the rules and regulations.
Yeah. And it might even, because those events, there's so much going on, might even be worth having a few rule signs on easels that just get more proliferated throughout the park so people can see it.
A-frames.
Yeah, A-frame easels.
No, but that's a really good point, because you're right, people from out of town, they don't see and respect the park as much as the people who live around the park.
Yeah.
So if we don't take care of our park, why would they? So we have to convey that message, and if us, the Conservancy, can put together something that makes it easier for event organizers to relay that, we can definitely work on that. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go into hyperdrive just so we can again keep this on schedule and make sure it's an opportunity for open.
Right, one thing real quick, I just have to see if I can find the part of our charter where it says dogs can't be left free to roam in an uncovered fenced in yard or porch at such a time when the aqua, well, that's the thing. But I don't think that you can have your dog untethered.
Yep.
It has to be leashed at all times. The only time you don't have to leash your dog is in a dog park.
Yes. Yeah, that's on that sign, I assure you. Fortunately, it's just a bad picture.
That's been weathered.
And I didn't realize that until too late, but I can again, I think it'd be something good just to circulate all the information that's on that sign so you all know.
I just have one question. This is Officer Daniel. Is there anything else needed from me at this time before I disconnect?
Oh, I mean, I think, as we stay engaged on this perimeter security project, I think we'll have to just stay engaged on what the role of enforcement is going to be in this new future.
Okay. Okay.
And they have you again, second meeting in a row, and I think we'll keep engaged.
Well, I'm always available.
Thank you, Officer Daniel.
Thank you, Officer Daniel.
You guys have a great night. Thank you.
So again, I'll move through these quickly. Again, not a lot to report at the moment, but really encourage people to stay engaged on this project. This is a massive project within this community. The website is at the bottom of the page. There is currently resources and all the meeting materials available. I don't know why this keeps advancing on itself.
Is that the cover of the 33?
Yes.
Dated.
Yeah. So the Kensington Route 33 project. So again, not going to dive into too many of the details. We went through that quite a bit last meeting. But again, from the Conservancy standpoint, we're really about reconnecting not only Delaware Park to MLK Park, but all the communities together along the wonderful, what was the Humboldt Parkway corridor. This project does a lot to do that, but it really, our biggest concern at this point in time is that it's really finite in terms of its impact, up to Ferry. And we really think that this project needs to meet the other project addressing the 198 corridor in terms of its scope and its impact, because it's leaving a bit of the community behind still. even though a great effort and moving it forward, we need to make sure we don't miss an opportunity. So that's been the crux of our comments to this point, but it's an ongoing process. You know, we encourage everybody to stay engaged in this at each step, but not really a lot more to say at the moment. So,
There's also the sister project, so to speak, the 198, that's supposedly going through a renovation as well. If that should happen, then I could see how the 198 would meet the 33 and be a walkable, rideable place. But like you stated, ferry all the way up to Main Street will not be covered. And it's right over there at Main and Humboldt, where there's this, it goes back underground, it goes under Main Street, comes back up Humboldt down by Parkside. So unless the 198 is done in tandem with 33.
right. Yeah, so I haven't gotten into the 198 conversation here. I'll be talking about that next week at the Delaware district meeting.
Well, Brian, the Delaware starts on the other side of Main Street. So we still have the connector where unfortunately that accident happened.
Yep.
That's still in Maston.
Yep.
And all the way to Main Street. So if anybody wants to know where that is, excuse me. This is Main Street, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is all Maston.
Yeah.
All of this, all of that 33, and all of this is Maston. So all of that has to be considered. And I mean, if they're going to do this, they might as well do right by all, like you said,
yeah,
all of our community, make sure that all of this is walkable.
Then I will encourage you all as well. I don't have the website out here, but the Region Central project is the project addressing basically from here over. And currently there are some actually very aggressive expressway removal plans on the table that eliminate that bathtub under Main Street, you know, bring it back, reconnect. So if we can get these two projects to meet, then we'll really have success. And both of them are moving forward. So we're hopeful, but we don't want to leave a gap. That's basically where we're at. But again, we'll keep bringing information to you. So please stay engaged there. The lighting project, again, you know, I thought I might get some questions about the photometrics, but you know, really the more important thing is that construction is underway. That's starting with the foundations. By Thanksgiving, we expect to be putting up poles, and they'll be again working through the end of the year. The activation of the lighting is tied to work with National Grid, so that's going to be coordinated, but we really can't report on that date at this point in time. But we're proceeding with getting the conduit, getting everything in place, and then flick of the switch is again working with our big electric agencies in the area. So we'll sort of keep you up to date, but glad to report construction is underway.
Can you don't have a picture to show everyone? I'm sorry, Brian, but I know you did show everyone what the poles and the lights pictures look like. Is that on this slide or no?
You know, I actually deleted those slides to put the construction photos up. Talking about what it was going to be last month or last meeting, and I got rid of those photos. But you know, it's if you've seen, we're putting in these ornamental light poles. If you're in the park and you walk into the newly dedicated John Brent Garden, you put in a few new light poles in that garden, and they're going to all be just like that one. So that's the best real world example close to home. Again, we're continuing to do great work with the Buffalo African American Museum group on making improvements to the MLK Monument. Part of that is going to be another phase of this lighting project. Again, this lighting project is going to be well into 2023, and this will be a part of that, most likely a later stage of that lighting project. But again, we're looking at making additional improvements on the plaza. And again, if you want to get engaged in this effort, we encourage you to do so. Reach out to us and get engaged in the sort of regular meetings of this group and efforts. So reach out to Z, who is the person managing the distribution list, so you probably already have their email. At this point, if you're here today. But one of the key features of that we're working on is this self-guided audio tour. So again, this is a page on our website you can go to under resources, audio tours. Basically, we're developing these tours throughout the system. You can, use them. You can't read these buttons, but click on one and you can pull it up on your phone. Click on another, and you can just listen to the tour sitting at your desk in your home. And again, we're building out and refining the one for MLK Park with the Buffalo African American Museum folks. So we're working on that script, working on the details of that, and look forward to that in the coming year. Lighting, the RFP, we received the responses to we received our proposals this week. We're reviewing those. We look to be making a decision by the end of this week and getting the contractor ongoing. That's going to start by just refreshing all the existing signs, but then that's going to lead us into a phase of adding new signage about, not only informational signage, interpretive signage, sort of telling the story, but also just directing people, within the park to park, sort of different wayfinding aspects. So large project that, again, we're happy to report is moving forward. Other future projects that resources have been secured, but we're in the very beginning stages of sort of moving them forward, which we'll be bringing back to this group, is working on the greenhouse and a major project to redo the pathways and the furnishings throughout the park. If you want to get a sense of a pathway project, we just completed a pathway project over on the west side at Prospect Park. We redid all the paths. We've got the new bench pads. New benches are going in. So that we're looking to sort of bring that. We've got resources to bring us to the table there for this project. And those are our benches. Again, just wrapping up in terms of information and issues that we've been responsive to, and a lot of discussion about helping and coordinating with the major events that are so wonderful and throughout the season here in the park. So just a couple days ago here in this room, as I mentioned and Zia elaborated on, we had our sort of first coordination meeting and we got a number of great ideas on the table about how we can collaborate better and maybe sort of do some sort of group sourcing of certain things that every event needs in a coordinated way. So a lot of good ideas. We're going to keep this dialogue going specifically about the events coordination. So that's an exciting thing that we wanted to report out on. So flew through those because we're running out of time, but just sort of before celebrate a couple things, just wanted to sort of pause and I can go back and elaborate on anything out of the handout or any new issues that people want to bring up here. Take a moment for that. Anybody have any concerns or any head scratching moments out of the parks of late? Yes.
Well, I just wanted to bring up one thing related to the RFP. Going back to discussions like maybe last winter about use of the casino when it was completed, several people, including myself, spoke to the need for sort of grade A modern event gathering space or community space, because it's hard to find in that area of the city.
This is community space tied not to like a banquet or a meal, but just gathering for.
It could be both. I mean, people, have events that they're looking for a space and those may not have food, or they may have food as a peripheral. They're not a banquet. But I encountered it myself while I was doing some volunteering, that it was hard to find spaces, for, I guess what you call community gathering meetings.
Okay, I mean, that's something that we can, we're in the community gathering business. So when we were looking for spaces to hold these sorts of meetings, we've done a little bit of exploration. I know the Science Museum tries to be very accommodating in the Cummings Room and in their auditorium. So in addition to, I think, contemplating it for our RFP and what we're looking for from a concessionaire, we can also maybe sort of share a little bit of our research, in terms of where we found opportunities. Mary with the library is great. Lots of great spots, and also here, this is a wonderful spot. They've been great working
Yeah.
with us. So.
I also would hope that any bidder puts this in their business plan of providing that space for the community to rent. I think these are great questions to ask the top 3 candidates for the space. So keep these in mind, and then maybe at Wingo's breakfast in a few months, we could all ask them directly.
Yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, I think got that in the notes, and we'll circle back on it.
Yeah, it was one of the meetings at Meriwether when we were still meeting there, and there's a couple of guys in front of me that brought it up too. I mean, I kind of.
The meeting at Meriwether, yes. Yep. All right, anything else on people's minds? All right. Certainly a great morning, a great day for it. It's crisp fall day where we rededicated the what we've been calling the cottage garden. Some people call it the walled garden. It used to be called the rose garden. But now it is officially known as the John E. Brent Garden. Mr. Brent, the first African-American architect in Buffalo, a very significant figure. A lot of folks, including our councilman Twingo, spoke eloquently about, not only the man, but what it all represents in terms of this moment and celebrating it. So it was a great morning, great event. Very excited about unveiling the John E. Brent Garden. So got a couple photos there from the event. The family, it was great to have a number of descendants from the architect there, in addition to our elected officials. And we got nice bronze plaques at each entrance point naming the garden. So it's an exciting event and something we've been looking forward to for a while. In addition, looking forward to things, not that we want to be thinking about winter, but.
Hey, Brian,
again,
can I just?
oh, yes, sir.
Can I just say, thank you, if Stephanie is still listening, thank you, Stephanie, for allowing this to happen in the Olmsted Park. I learned a lot from former council member, Brother Cliff Bell, regarding all of the many contributions of John Brent and how he and Mr. Olmsted had collaborated. And I am very appreciative that I was part of the process to rename that park by drafting the resolution. Thank you again, Stephanie, for the verbiage. But I am very honored to have been part of that renaming. So thank you again, Stephanie. Thank you to Cliff Bell. Thank you to all of the other folks who were involved in making this day possible. It was very, very powerful for me. If Bronze was not sick this morning, it's my dog. If Bronze was not sick this morning, I would have been there on time, but Bronze had to make sure he was fine before I left the house.
So council member, I'm still here, and I just wanted to let you know that the honor and privilege is all ours. And it was an absolutely stunning day. It's fitting and long overdue recognition. And we are just so proud that we could do this in MLK Jr. Park. So thank you for all your efforts too.
All right, as we wrap up, I think we got a couple minutes left. We are looking forward to Christmas. As usual, partner, there's coordination with Authority Leader Chris People-Stokes. I think we've got other partners engaged, but I realized this was going to be the meeting before all of this happened, because we're not meeting again until 2023. I just sort of wanted to remind people that this is an effort that I imagine we're actually probably looking for some volunteerism on. So we'll be reaching out and keeping people aware of things as they progress. Again, sort of pausing for any final thoughts and wrap up while people are thinking. I do know that as we think about 2023, we are contemplating other formats for these meetings, other ways to communicate, not necessarily just try and reduce in-person gatherings, but sort of reach the most people. So again, sort of in the network of this, perhaps having that standing couple minutes at the legislative breakfast, meeting people where they are a little bit, providing more sort of written sort of newsletter type updates, robust website stuff. So we're going to keep exploring new things. This has been a learning process every quarter. Thank you all for staying engaged. And again, in addition to coming to the meetings, any thoughts you have between meetings, you've got our contact information. So any final thoughts before we wrap up? I think we're right about at time.
I also left my business card up there. If anyone has any thoughts, you can email me any day or night. Email me there.
I'll read it when I get it.
Call me 9 to 5.
Your address out of it?
Email me there.
I live at the office.
No matter what the time.
Okay.
I'll check when I get to it.
Well, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Everyone have a good night.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Oh, sorry. You signed in.